We got a great speaker today, and it's very, very timely. We're talking about education. Bob King. Jeremy, I've got to speak to got to give an education speech tomorrow in Louisville at the Kentucky School Board Association. I'm sure you'll be there. And my topic is terrible. I didn't ask what it was before I agreed to do it. It is to distinguish the ethical considerations between outside counsel and inside counsel on education. Yeah, and his speech is going to be better than mine. So I'm doing the whole thing, though, with Will Ferrell movie clips tomorrow. No kidding. And it does two things. One, guarantees I'll enjoy it. And two, guarantees I'll never be invited back. So that's the goal. Bob King became the third president of the Kentucky Council on Postsecondary Education in January of 2009. And since coming to the post, he's led statewide efforts in a lot of areas, and particularly the collaborative work with counterparts in K-12 education. It's focused on campus attention on student success and is encouraging significant reform in teacher and principal training. He recently served on the executive committee of the State Higher Education Executive Officers and served as its chair and vice chair. In the past, he has served 9 years on the White House Commission on Presidential Scholars. In addition, he has served on the Education Committee of the United States National Commission, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. He has been advisor to the Middle States Commission on Higher Ed regarding reauthorization of the Higher Education Act in Congress, the Board of Directors of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, how about that, and the Board of Trustees of Prescott College in Prescott, Arizona. Mr. King received a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1968 from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, a Juris Doctor in 1971 from Vanderbilt University Law School. He is married to Karen's wife for 40 years. He has 4 children and 2 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a Rooster Booster welcome to Dr. Robert King.
There's the clicker.
Okay. Well, good morning, and Bart, thank you very much. I love coming to Owensboro. I never get to stay long enough, in my view, because we don't. But I thought I might have to swim in this morning. Thankfully, the river is starting to go down. I was rescued, by the way, by Scott Williams, who found me wandering around out in a parking lot about 1.5 miles from here. I understand that you're getting a parking garage to help with the immediate situation. I wanted to, before I start, recognize a couple of other people who are part of your community and part of a vitally important team that is supporting everything that is the future of Owensboro and the future of Kentucky. Nick Brake, who I've got a chance to work with a little bit, Scott Williams, Matt Robinson, and of course Bart. These people are leading the most important sources of your future in terms of education. And Father, I missed your college. I apologize, but it really is at the core of why I'm here and the core of the work that we do here in Kentucky. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. I was asked to talk to you about what is the importance of higher education to the future of our state and frankly the future of our country. And I found this photograph. If you can't quite make it out, in the middle of it is either an automobile or a truck chassis in a Toyota assembly plant in somewhere in Japan. But it would look just like the Toyota plant here in Georgetown. And the caption I was going to include on this is, "Where's Waldo?" There are no people there, as you can see. That chassis is being put together and welded, metal being formed, all by machines. And it is, if anybody thinks this is not going to have an impact on the ability of our country to produce jobs, and more importantly, to produce workers with skills that are not going to be replaced by those things, that's part of this challenge. There's another challenge coming as well. This is a book called The Coming Jobs War. It's written by Jim Clifton, who is the president of the Gallup Corporation. Gallup surveys public opinions now all over the world. And what they did is they tried to do a survey in every country in the world to find out what people wanted most. It took them 7 years to develop a survey that was language specific and culturally sensitive and all that stuff. And what they found was that there's about 3 billion people in the world who want a job that consumes at least 30 hours a week and pays enough income to support a family without requiring a second job. That's about as simple as I can put it. So there's 3 billion people roughly that want that. Here's the challenge. There's only 1.2 billion jobs in the world currently that fit that description. So you get the notion of the competition for these jobs. More and more people around the world are becoming more highly educated, something that was almost the exclusive province of our country through the 20th century. I hope you can read that, but those red dots that are spread across there represent the percentage of the population in each of those countries that had a bachelor's degree in the year 1968, which, as you heard, was the year I graduated from college. The United States at the time had 22% of the population with a bachelor's degree, and the next nearest country at the time actually was, looked like it was Norway, I guess. The country of Kentucky had 19%. I'm glad somebody laughed at that. I say that because Kentucky is really a country unto itself. We are not competing with Indiana and Tennessee and Missouri. We're competing with all of these places. And so the next picture here is to show you what's happened in the intervening 50 years in terms of the percentage of the population with a bachelor's degree. You can see that a number of countries have surpassed the United States, actually more than are on this chart. We've gone from 22% to 35%. The country of Kentucky has gone from 19 to 22. Look at the first country on the far left. That's South Korea, by the way, not the other one. Look at the remarkable movement they've gone from 8% to just about the same as the United States. And so going back to those two other points, the coming job war and the robots, there is this pressure in the workplace to increasingly reduce jobs that can be converted to an algorithm and put into a computer to run a machine. And there is this growing competition because more and more people across the globe are becoming more highly educated. Some more highly educated than us. This is probably the most depressing slide that I'm going to show you. I should have told you, by the way, I should have given you a trigger warning in advance of my talk this morning, but I hope you'll consider this a relatively safe space. Children in Kentucky are now being educated at about the national average. We were at the very bottom, or near the bottom, back in 1990. And we've moved from the bottom up to just about the middle. And so that child in this picture on the far left are really the children of Kentucky. And this is measuring or describing how our children are doing on an international exam called PISA. PISA is the Program for International Student Assessment. It's given to 15-year-olds in countries now numbering close to 70. And it's not just select kids, it's every kid. It's or not every student, but the cohort of students that are selected to take these exams represent the entire array of students in each of the countries, by race, by income level, by gender. And so what this is showing us is that children at age 15, high school students, a few years away from college, in the United States, have almost 3.5 years less knowledge in mathematics than kids of the same age in Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, Japan. China, by the way, that's that big country over there, right? Estonia, Canada, you can read the rest. So these are our kids. Here's reading. The gap isn't quite as big, but still a gap of a year to a year and a half. And here's science. And so if the challenge is to educate our young people in a way that gives them the skills and the talent and the capacity to have a productive and prosperous life, one that will be tied to employment that is least likely to be replaced by a machine, our kids have got to step it up. We've got to step it up in terms of how we educate and what we educate them about and what we expect of them. The bar needs to be raised significantly higher because all those kids in those countries are going to be competing for these jobs as well. And with transportation and communication and automation that we have worldwide, these jobs can go anywhere. Anywhere. And they're going to go to people with the highest level of talent, willing to work for the best price. That's business. You all know that. So part of my message here is to encourage you to understand the urgency that our country faces, that our state faces, that your community faces in terms of what's coming in this next century. I'm going to blow through a number of these things, but I want to show you some important stuff. At our office, we're charged with setting a strategic agenda for the public and the private and independent colleges in our state, including UK and U of L and all the comprehensive universities, community and technical colleges, private and independent colleges. We work very closely. And what we've felt is that if we could get 60% of our citizens to have some post-secondary credential, not everybody needs a bachelor's degree, but a certificate that has industry value, an associate degree, bachelor's degree, master's, PhDs. We need everything, by the way. Everything and everybody. And so here are the things it's going to take. We're going to have to recruit more adults back into post-secondary education. We've got 1 million working age adults in Kentucky who have a GED or a high school diploma and maybe some college but no credential. And they're stuck in a job that has very little future. We need to increase the high school graduation rate, and that graduation rate, the diploma that our students earn, needs to represent not just the fact that they made it through 12 years of public education, but that they know and can do the things that will be required in 21st century workplaces. We need them to be ready if they're going to go on to post-secondary, and nearly everybody needs that. All of the projections in terms of future needs of our workforce say that if you want a prosperous life, you will need some education beyond high school. We need to build strong pathways from KCTCS into the universities for those students who want to transfer. At higher education, we need to get more of our students to their finish line. Too many of our students are dropping out. For our four-year institutions, comprehensive universities, we're graduating less than half the students who start with us. It is frankly unacceptable. And so here are the things that are changing, and I'm just looking at time. I want to flow through them, but let me share with you 3 of these. The first is there is a growing recognition, not easily won when you talk to math faculty, that not everybody needs pre-calculus to earn a college degree. That the math that people need ought to be aligned with the course of study that they're pursuing. So a student who wants to go into the natural sciences, engineering, yeah, they need pre-calculus, calculus, and beyond. But for a student who's going into history or English or creative writing or the arts, they may need different math courses that will serve them, courses in statistics, courses in more generalized math or math that's specific. Might be trigonometry if they're going into manufacturing. So that's coming. Second is what we call co-requisite remediation. We have for many years put students who were underprepared at our universities and community colleges into something we call developmental education. But only 1 in 5 of those students ever got out of developmental ed, which means taking at full tuition non-credit bearing courses. Only 1 in 5 made it to a credit bearing course. And so some really smart people figured out that there was a better way to do this. Put kids immediately into credit-bearing courses, but give them targeted help in the areas in which they're weak, whether it's in math or it's in language arts or reading. What we have managed to do, and this is now going on at every community and technical college in our state and increasingly at our four-year institutions, we are doubling and tripling and quadrupling the number of students who are now moving on into the next level of credit-bearing course, taking away obstacles to success. The last one on here is called 15 to finish. What we learned is if you want to finish an associate degree in 2 years or a bachelor's degree in 4, you got to take 15 credit hours. And you got to earn 15 credit hours each semester, or at least 30 credit hours in a calendar year. What we also found is we were advising students to take less than 15 credit hours because we thought it would be easier for them. Well, it might be easier, but it costs them time and money. And the longer it takes to complete, the less likely it is you will. And so this program is also being implemented where taking 15 credit hours is the default course load rather than an exception. There's some others here. Last thing I'll touch on, given the time, and some of this is changing, but what this represents is the state support, the tax dollars that go to support public higher education. Since the recession, when we were providing over $9,000 per full-time equivalent student to our public universities to support their post-secondary education, that number is now down to 5,368. If we were being funded at the public universities at the same level that we were being funded on a per student basis, back in 2007, 2008, this was the outset of the recession, the universities and community colleges would be receiving more than $500 million more than what they're currently receiving. What that gap has created is this enormous pressure on tuition. And so as tuitions go up, it makes it harder and harder for families to find the means to get their sons and daughters or themselves into post-secondary. So we have been working hard to persuade the legislature, persuade the governor, that this is an investment in Kentucky's future. There is no more important or better investment, in my view, that can be made. If we are going to succeed as a country going forward, given those robots and given the competition, it means that we have got to rededicate ourselves to getting our young people educated to much higher levels than we're currently doing, levels that will bring us back up to the top of the heap where we were 50 years ago. So with this enlightening and inspiring message, I will send you off into your day. But I know that this is depressing. It depresses me. But we've got some fabulous educators here who are doing their very best to change the way we educate our students, to increase the expectations of them, and in doing so, give them the targets that they will meet. You saw this beautiful young lady, Kalia, this morning. I have no doubt that she will be one of those kids that will be in those graphics of kids all the way over at the Singapore end. But we've got to get every child able to do that as we move forward. So thank you for having me. I apologize for depressing you, but hopefully it will move you to do what we got to do to get this improved. Thanks so much.